that cost like $3,000.
Yep.
Right. Oh, this guy from Trinidad was like that, man. The mischievous guy. You know, the guy with the two sons?
Oh, yeah, him.
Yeah, he was playing the congregation, getting money.
Yeah.
And him and his wife was with it, man. That's why we curse out his wife just as much as we curse out him. And they were bragging about all the food and stuff that they had because he was being mischief, man. Mischievous.
Yeah.
And that's why Paul said what he said. Why? Because you want to live, you love the love of a lazy, effeminate life. Unscrupulous, cunning, mischief. Okay?
That's right.
That's right. This is Ephesians chapter 4, verse 14. That we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive. You know, so it says that we be no longer children tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine. You know, that's why this guy pops up. You guys are fickle, man. You're like women. Anytime a new guy pops up, you all with him. You all following him like a sheep to the slaughter.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just like, you're right, brother. It's just like a woman. A woman will get with one guy. Like, you know, when she meets a new guy, oh my goodness, she's all into you. She like you. But then after a couple of months, she start getting tired of your ass. Because, you know, she get used to you. Then all of a sudden, she go outside, she's on her way to work, and she sees some other nigga drive by in a nice car. And he's dressed up, and he got the bling, you know, the bling on. Then her eye starts wavering, like, I like him. He cute. Oh man, who's this nigga? Who that? Who's this nigga? Damn. You know, then the guy parks and gets out the car. Damn, he diesel. Fuck, I'm gonna get with him. And then she goes, and then she tells the one guy, I can't be with you no more. I'm tired. I gotta move on. And she gets with the new guy. Yep. And then she gets with that guy, and it's the same process. That's these women out here. Then every time a new, flashier guy comes along, they go, you guys are women, man. You guys are, what's the word? Whorish women. Okay?
Now I looked up this other word in the same book of Acts 13. The word is, let me find it again because I lost it. Okay, the word pervert, right? Now the word pervert is from the Hebrew. I mean, not the Hebrew. It's from the Greek. Diastrepho. That's why you got to look up these words to get a deeper understanding. And it says the word pervert means to distort, turn aside, to oppose, plot against the saving purpose and plans of the Most High. That's what you did, Johanna, with that cookout. That was a trap, because they said, well, look, let's see how many of these niggas gonna come on a Sabbath on the new moon. Let's see how deep these guys are in the scriptures. And who came? Dunya Allah. Because you really ain't deep. You put on a good act. Yeah. Yeshaya's a nothing but an actor, man. A straight up actor, man. That's why he came out of nowhere, and they welcomed this guy with open arms. If anything, you should say, well, where have you been for the last 15 years? He said, ask me some hard questions. I would have said, where have you been for the last 15 years? How about that, you know? It says, pervert is to distort, turn aside, to oppose, plot against the saving purposes and plans of the Lord, to turn aside from the right path, to pervert, corrupt.
Now, I looked up that word in Ephesians 4:14, the word slight, and it's from the Greek kubeia, right? It says, number one, dice playing. Number two, metaphorically, the deception of men, because dice players sometimes cheated and defrauded their fellow players. You know, so that's what they're doing, man. They playing dice. They throwing the dice in front of you, but they're cheating. The dice are loaded. You know, and you falling for it. That's why Peter was so adamant when he said this In the book of 2 Peter 1:16, it says, "For we have not followed cunningly devised fables when we made known unto you the power and coming of our Lord Yahushua, but were eyewitnesses of his majesty." Because you're going to have guys that's going to come in with all different types of madness to try to pluck those of you out there to their madness. But it's not going to work on the elect. And we keep saying that we're the only ones out there that teach about the elect. We always keep mentioning about the elect. These guys, all these other groups are trying to bring all Israel together. It's not going to work like that. The Lord has an election, a certain number of Israelites that he's looking for. Once that number is sealed, then the end is here. So the Lord ain't looking for all Israel right now. You have something?
All right, this is the book of Psalms 127, verse 1. It says, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it." So pretty much that house that you built trying to bring all Israel together, the Lord ain't with that. Yahweh Shem Yahushua ain't with that. He said 2/3 of Israel is going to be put to death. All right, he said the elect is going to make it. So it said, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh, but in vain." So bottom line, basically all that coming together, that kumbaya stuff, that's all in vain because Yahweh Shem Yahushua is not with it. All right, and it's just a matter of time to the Lord reveal who his men are, and the Lord is going to reveal to yourselves that you're not the men of the Lord. It's just a matter of time, man. You can't just sit up there and do this thing the way that you want to do it. The Lord already set up his program, how he's going to bring together the elect. All right, now in the kingdom, after niggas are destroyed through the nuclear destruction, through the famine, martial law, then they're going to come back in their right state of mind and righteousness. Romans 11:26. Then that'll be fulfilled, all Israel being saved. But the Lord didn't set that up. That's not in the prophecy. You can't show me in the scriptures in this time where the Lord said he's going to bring all of Israel together. You like to try to use Zephaniah, was it the 3rd chapter, I think, gather yourselves together, O nation not desire. Well, let me tell you something. That's not dealing with all of Israel. That's dealing really with the elect. Because why? Is all of Israel going to come together and wake up in this trip? No. All right, you go to Romans, what's that, 11:7, it breaks that down. All of Israel ain't going to wake up and get the truth, man. So when the Lord said, "Gather yourself together, O ye nation not desired," that's dealing with the elect of Israel. All right? So you guys forget that very important thing that the Most High has in the election. That's why if that wasn't the case, the Lord wouldn't have said through Peter, the Apostle Peter, "Give diligence to make thy calling and election sure." So just not any old Joe could just come up into this thing and say, "Well, I was there in the beginning," or whatever the case is. "I'm one of them men. No, you got to be diligent, man. And if you ain't diligent, then guess what? You ain't going to make it, man. That means that you're like a waverer, man. Like I tell you in the book of James, man. Right? And the Lord said, "Let not that man think he should receive anything from the Lord." Only thing you guys are going to receive is damnation, because the Most High is not dealing with that kumbaya Israelite thing. So y'all can have that. Y'all can keep getting together, get all the Israelite groups together. All right? But the Most High is not. We gonna follow what Yahweh Shem Yahushua said. We're gonna stick to the script and the word. We're gonna continue in the things that we were learned, that we were taught, man. All right? I got it. Okay.
Yeah, okay, well, no. Throw this in there with you. 1 John 2:15. Now, you out there with them Afrocentric niggas, that's what I really call them, because that's what they was called back in the early 90s. That whole thing came up in that really goes back to like the 70s, the 70s, the Black Power movement back in the 70s. Niggas was walking around wearing dashikis and shit like that. And kufis. You know what I'm saying? Even Richard Pryor snapped on a nigga. It was like, I think it was like in the early 80s. It was like around one of his stand-ups. I think it might have been Richard Pryor live. It was like the 81, it was 80, 81. And he said, "Look at this nigga right here. This nigga still wearing the dashiki. You know he crazy." Hey, Richard Pryor was snapping at them niggas, man. He said, "This motherfucker was still wearing the dashiki. You know this nigga crazy. Look at this nigga right here." Yeah, cause that shit got played out back then. You know what I'm saying? Then it went away. Then in the early 90s, that's when they made that black conscious shit had like a new reemergence by way of them so-called rappers. You had Queen Latifah. She came out. She had the big, tall crown on her head. And she had them two bitches with her dancing. And then all them so-called rappers got into the 5% thing. They were wearing the African medallions, the flavor, Jungle Brothers and Tribe Called Quest, Native Tongues. They were pushing, Poor Righteous Teachers. All them rappers, they was pushing that black conscious shit. In the late 80s, going into the early 90s. The Public Enemy, they was out there pushing that black power shit. Them niggas was into that Islam shit, but they were pushing that black power shit. That was back then. It was the niggas were walking around with the African medallions and the red, black, and green.